Hello everyone, and welcome back to my weekly list update video. I normally do these on Sundays, but every week I do a quick rundown on albums I've listened to for the first time over the week, and briefly discuss them here before they're chosen for reviews by the random number generator. I particularly like to highlight independent talent here, so if you or someone you know makes some fire shit, be sure to comment it-ish somewhere and send it my way. I'm looking forward to hearing it. Without further ado, Veins of Wire by Ecosystem. You know, transfem noise has got to be one of my favorite genders, if not my favorite. TikTok led me to this pretty solid noise album from Ecosystem. The first two songs are definitely a barrier of entry to a pretty hypnotic second half. Be sure to give her a follow in the description below. First Band on the Moon by the Cardigans. This was somehow just as good as their first album, Emmerdale, and in some ways better, especially with the catchier instrumentation and the central theme of being a breakup album if you ignore their cover of Black Sabbath's Iron Man, which is great. It's a great fucking song. Also, this album has Love Fool, one of my favorite songs from the 90s and all time in general. Gran Turismo, the Cardigans. While being the most sonically interesting of their albums that I've heard so far, this one is probably my least favorite Cardigans album. Not to say that it's bad, it is far from bad. I mean that there's one song that I think is okay on here, and the rest of it's just straight fucking fire. So far, no matter where you start with the Cardigans, you're in for a good time. Be sure to check them out. Jackman by Jack Harlow. Well, this is the first full Jack Harlow album that I have listened to. I am at least familiar with the absolute failure that was his last album, Come Home the Kids Miss You. And I say that because this album makes me think that Jack recognizes that album was a failure as well. The production here is probably the best part of the album, in my opinion, which is not a bad thing at all because this has been some of my favorite low-key production that I've heard all this year, but Jack can be a bit hit and miss on the lyrics. The biggest showcase of this mismatch is Gang Gang Gang, which honestly would be my favorite beat of this year so far, but the lyrics are... Yeah, we're just gonna go to the next album somewhere in this, like Acid Rap by Chance the Rapper. Now that the 10th anniversary edition has juice on it, I have now listened to a full Chance the Rapper tape / album that isn't The Big Day. This is another early tape from a future star, but Chance comes through with such a unique delivery and character that it rises above most early mixtapes from artists, even of that time period. I'm never forgiving Ab-Soul for that one bar though, and if you know, you know. That shit had me contemplating if life was truly meaningless at 8 p.m. on a fucking Friday. Electric Larryland by the Butthole Surfers. This was a trippy noise rock album that I quite enjoyed, and since I can't talk about this band to anyone in public, y'all get to hear me talk about my love for the Butthole Surfers. Fuck. They were an entertaining part of my Friday evening. Check out this album, or at least Pepper, their biggest hit that you probably may recognize. The Rise and Fall of Ziggy Stardust and the Spiders from Mars by David Bowie. Now, I normally go into anything that's declared a classic with a healthy amount of skepticism, but nah, this one's as good as people say it is. It's a really good album to start listening to David Bowie on. Especially if you are like me and you've never heard any of David Bowie's music to this point. Aladdin Sane by David Bowie. This album is pretty similar to Ziggy Stardust, but I think it rocks a bit harder, but trades in some of the catchiness of some songs for some weird sonic detours, more towards the beginning. Still a great album, even if it doesn't quite reach the same highs as its predecessor. Strictly Business by EPMD. This hip-hop classic has held up really well, actually. While the flows can feel a bit dated in some parts, and the songs do feel a bit long throughout, there is such great production and chemistry between the two rappers of EPMD that it weighs the album down less than other hip-hop albums of its time. I definitely recommend giving this a listen, especially if you're unfamiliar with classic hip-hop, kind of late 80s sound.
Exerter by Blade.
Another solid vibe from Blade, but I really hope as I listen to them more that their sound begins to vary a bit, because I've mostly listened to their shorter projects, but I think it may prove difficult to listen to 40 minutes of this on a lengthier album. That's it for this week. Let me know your favorite song from any of the artists mentioned, or what albums I should check out next, and I'll see y'all for the next review. Peace.